I'm around level 45 now, and I've been trying to figure out how to make the best impact on missions. Are there squad tactics in Helldivers 2? Are there builds that complement each other? How do you modify these builds for bugs? What changes are needed for bots? I can tell you now that 90% of the player base has no interest in knowing whether Helldivers 2 has squad builds. However, the rest of us are putting together ideas that could be seen as builds. The majority of the player base are very much focused on hitting the enemy head on at very close range, and while this sometimes cannot be prevented, as everything in the game seems to want to close the distance and attack at point blank range, there must be a way to bracket engagements. In real life, the infantry squad obviously works within very close proximity of each other. But what if we try to think of a Helldivers squad as more of a platoon? So we obviously have our infantry squads and teams, but what about support? Can we slot in a direct fire support weapons operator in a 4-man team? This got me thinking. I came up with this idea of having lines of attack: the front line, the mid line, and the back line. The front line usually carries high damage or high rate of fire weapons. Heavy or medium armor, a versatile heavy weapon. We're talking anything from railguns to disposable launchers. They tend to carry strikes as there's no one to their front. Their job is to meet the enemy toe to toe, interact with terminals and the like. This is the role that most Helldivers play. They jump in and they just run straight at the enemy. They are the squad members with the most deaths because, let's face it, they're taking all the enemy fire, and that's fine. The backline usually carries something with medium armor penetration, so the Lib Penetrator or the Dominator, for example. Light armor is the preference for speed and distance, however, medium could be better for bot missions. The spear is a great standoff weapon for bugs, but most players use the recoilless rifle or the disposable launcher. This person is spending a lot of time placing turrets on boulders and elevated positions. They rarely enter the objective, but rather sit out and watch for patrols. It's usually the back line that breaks an encirclement, and when a team has a dedicated rear guard, a squad wipe rarely happens. The midline is the workhorse. They are either running the objective with the front line or clearing that flat, open ground that always seems to be on the outside of an encampment, side mission, or a bug hive. Let's say medium armor. The sickle, or any of the breaker shotguns. The Dominator maybe? This position needs to be versatile and be able to immediately fill gaps where needed. They are usually the highest level in the squad and understand that they don't need to be on every terminal to get the mission done. The autocannon seems to be the weapon of choice for a midliner, however, the new Quasar launcher might be a better fit here. The main objective of this team composition is to create a 2-up, 1 mid, 1 back formation that focuses on keeping the front line moving. Again, think platoon formations, but in a squad. Too often we find ourselves bogged down on a structure because patrols were able to funnel in unhindered, when a well-placed autocannon sentry could have fixed that. But when everybody is rushing to be the first one onto the objective, things quickly go to pieces. I also noticed that in the early days of release, players were electing a sample carrier whose only job was to survive and extract, and while I'm not hearing much about this idea now, I believe it was this position that got me thinking about this idea. Even if we disband the midline and just had a 3-up and 1 back squad composition, surely this has to be better than everybody doing whatever. I know that some players split up from the squad and run solo, but I have tried to put a stop to this in my gameplay, as I always find myself dealing with that solo runner's spawn. Quite frankly, you can't be running around triggering twice the amount of spawn just because you don't play well with others. There are 4-player slots on a drop with the freedom to take a bunch of gear down with them. Why wouldn't you try to create complementary builds or allocate squad roles? Get down in the comments and let me know whether you've started to create specialized team builds or whether your squad is already running this style of missions.